Hey, what's going on, Freightskills, and welcome to another video. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about a situation that we've had over the last 4 or 5 months where we were the victim of a 3-month-long double brokering scam. Now I'm going to tell you what happened, how we found out about it, and how we are going to mitigate that in the future so that you can protect yourself from double brokering, which seems to be going around the industry at an alarming rate. Everybody's worried about it right now, so let's talk about it. Now, before I get into that, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel. I don't want you to miss any of the freight broker updates that we provide. We are the #1 online educational source for freight broker information that's going on today. Not 10 years ago, not 20 years ago, not theoretical. This is stuff that's going on today in the freight broker industry, taught by somebody who still is a freight broker themselves, all right? So if that sounds interesting to you, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss anything. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what was going on last year over the course of a few months. So we had this lane where I believe it was Houston, Texas to Colorado. And it was based off of some container flow. So a container would come into the Houston port. We'd dray it to our warehouse, unpack it, ship it over to Colorado where the truckload would be unloaded, and then that was the extent of our job, right? What happened was we had a single carrier who was giving us really great service. So we found this carrier on one of the first loads that we did. So this was back in, I would say, October, November of last year, and they did a great job. The rate was acceptable and it was executed flawlessly. There was nothing we could complain about. We continued to get this load 2 to 3 times a month over the next few months. We still get it to this day whenever the container is coming. But a few months ago, something really bad happened. The load picked up and all of a sudden the communication that we were used to completely disappeared. Not only that, but the truck did not arrive at its scheduled delivery time, right? And this was I believe it's 2-day transit. So this was 2 days. We didn't get a single update from our dispatcher about the truck. We didn't get any kind of inclination that this was going to deliver anytime soon. We were lighting up our dispatcher, right? We're calling them every minute of the day, every half hour. They're getting phone calls from me and all of our staff. They're getting emails constantly. We're calling every single number we found listed at that company. I went on LinkedIn. We found every single employee at that company. We're calling all of them. We needed an answer for our customer, and we would do anything to get there. The next step was driving over to their office. Luckily, we didn't have to do that. They started answering, and they gave us a response that we didn't particularly like. They said that, like a lot of dispatchers who don't know what's going on do, they said that they don't know where the freight is, they don't know where the driver is. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to get in touch with them. At that point is when the threats start to come out from my end. So once we hear that they don't know where the freight is, that's when the threat of legal ramifications starts to occur. So I started telling them that should we not get an answer in 24 hours on where the freight is, we are going to start filing a police report. We're going to report it missing to whoever we have to, and I have some connections at the FBI in the freight division specifically, who we met a number of years ago about mitigating fraud and other freight-related crime. I was calling in all of the stops. That scared them enough for them to reveal to us that they actually gave the load to Landstar. And now if they were a broker, there would be no problem with this. I do a ton of business with Landstar, but we gave the load to a carrier, assuming that the carrier was going to use their own trucks to haul the load. And so we finally got in touch with Landstar. They didn't even give us the contact of the dispatcher who was handling it at this company. Instead, they gave us a load number, right? So we had the reference number. So what we had to do is we had to go through corporate to figure out who booked the load. Now we found who booked it, and guess what? They're in Russia. So now we have a load that was given to a carrier with a legitimate authority and completed properly in the past, given to another carrier with a dual authority, who was handled by somebody located in Russia. Lo and behold, that person had no idea what was going on with the load anyway. But we were able to get some information out of them, which was who the carrier they gave it to actually was. And when we checked Safe Assist for that carrier, we found that they are not even in service. So not only did our original carrier give it to another carrier, that dispatcher gave it to a carrier who's not even approved in the network. So now we have a carrier who picked up our load, went completely MIA and is now out of service. All right. Fortunately, SaferSys does provide a business address listed on the site, right? And fortunately, that business address was located in Houston, Texas. So there was only 2 viable options of what could be done. Unfortunately, when it comes to freight-related crime, it's a civil matter. So if you call the cops on a freight-related crime, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna tell you, we don't really know what to do with this. There's not a lot of laws that are very clear with policemen and governing freight. So if you say, hey, this person stole my load, they're gonna say, is it your load? No, it's my customer's. Oh, all right, then don't they have to call us? And say, no, I have custody of it. It's just a complete mess, right? Police, and it's not their fault. There's just very unclear guidelines of like, where's the jurisdiction with freight. Fortunately, their business address was listed as Houston, Texas, and fortunately, I have a team based out of Houston, Texas. So the only logical thing to do was to go out to that business address, which we did, and also happened to be a residence. Now, it was in a really sketchy area, so you can imagine we didn't want to put anybody in danger, so the only directives were, please do a drive-by and see if anybody is home, so we could figure out if we have to do a wellness check. Because if the truck is there, nobody's moving it, then we have the right to call and say that a business stole our load, and we can send a cop in there to do a wellness check. Lo and behold, the truck was parked outside of the business, but the trailer was not. Now, that can prove to be an issue because where the heck is our load? So now our load is completely missing. We started retracing our steps a little bit to see like, okay, what can we do? And we realized, we're best friends with the transloaders who helped unload the first container and loaded this truck. So we asked them, do you have a logbook or any kind of footage of who picked up this load from your dock? Fortunately, their cameras were working that day. They did. They had a very clear image of the truck that pulled in to pick it up. Now, this person very easily could have used a fake ID or forged a signature or whatever, but the important thing was we saw the truck that pulled in matched the truck that was in the parking lot of the business, and we noticed that the box trailer was rented from a trailer rental company. Now, this was really useful for us because now what we did was we called the trailer rental company and we told them that we have an issue with the trailer that has one of our loads inside of it. We told them that it was essentially missing. So they said, oh, well, I show it right here, and here are the coordinates. They were able to tell us where this tractor was located, and it was in the middle of a random unfenced parking lot, which could be a problem. So we send another representative, AKA just one of our buddies who was out in that area, out to the trailer, and lo and behold, the thing was unlocked. The cargo was still intact, thankfully. The back door was just, you were able to swing it right open, and there's all of our freight sitting inside. So now we're faced with the issue. We have a trailer that's being leased by a company that's out of service, and it was double brokered. Essentially, unless we could figure out a way to open this truck, transload this cargo onto another trailer, drive it out to Colorado, this thing is not getting delivered. The thing with the carrier network of Landstar, don't quote me on this, I don't know exactly how it works. When carriers run a load for them, they're essentially tacking on to their authority. So in other words, one Landstar truck or driver is allowed to pull another Landstar asset per se. So we told our agent out there in the Ukraine that he needs to find a power-only truck to transport this trailer to the final destination. Finally, after about 3 or 4 days, they did. But the problem with that was now that agent thought that they were going to bill us for the recovery. Because they said, oh, we're not working with this transportation company anymore. Now we're working with your brokerage and we just did a load for you. So we had to explain to corporate that, no, you didn't do a load for us. This was a recovery load. It was accepted illegally by your representative at this agency, and you had to recover it because it was stranded in the middle of a parking lot unsecured. So long story tied up. In the end, the freight got delivered to Colorado. It got unloaded. I don't know what happened with the tractor. Hopefully it was returned back to the leasing company. I know the leasing company had tracking on it, so they were probably able to recover it. That just goes to show that double brokering is something that even professional brokers have to deal with. It's really hard to spot. And what we do now is we employed a few extra checks. This is like even after 20 years. We've been around for about 25 years and we still have to put additional measures in place to make sure we're not getting scammed. I'll tell you a story about another scam in another video, but essentially what this all comes down to is I wanted to give you what we're doing now to limit the amount of double brokering that goes on. And the number one thing, like, it's not any expensive software tool that they're trying to sell you nowadays. It's no carrier checks, no software, nothing. We give specific instructions to our shippers now. We go out of our way to let them know this is the carrier's name who's picking this up. If that carrier's name is not on the door sign, we're gonna ask you to please call us, let us know about it so that they don't get their free. And we've caught at least 4 more attempts over the last few months of mismatched door sign versus bill of lading name that we have put on. And what we do in those instances is we call that carrier directly and we say, did you accept this from another broker? They'll tell us either yes, or they'll say that they accept it from another carrier, to which we'll say, we're the ones holding the actual load. If you run it for them, you're not gonna get paid for it, but just tell me what you quoted them. We'll make something happen in that regard. All right, so double brokering, I've been racking my brain for an answer of how to limit it. And still, with all the technology out there, it's still going on. So the technology is not doing a very good job. I don't know if it's helped anybody, honestly. It's probably helped a few people. But the problem with those softwares, and not that they're an issue, they do great things for people. But when you're dealing with double brokering criminals, they jump so quickly from one thing to another. So like, they can take one MC and quickly just use another MC. A lot of them are stealing people's identities too. So you'll have a dispatcher sitting there with 20 different carriers, and he'll use each one in a double brokering scam. So now those 20 carriers got a bad mark on their reputation, but they didn't do anything. And you still can't catch the dispatcher who's running around buck wild booking your freight, and you have no idea what's going on with it. So if anybody comes up with a solution to double brokering, I know I'm thinking about it constantly of a way we can unify these tools and try to mitigate this risk. But as far as our brokerage, those are the tricks that we've been doing. You know, we're doing a little bit more thorough interviews with carriers when they want to haul a load for us. We're checking to make sure that the information they give us verbally matches what is available on SaferSys and public domains. But the biggest thing for us is we're working closer with our shippers to make sure that those door signs match up with the carrier that we booked on the load, right? So that's huge. If you add that check into your loads, which shouldn't be too much work, you know, unless you're moving 300 loads a week, it's really easy to add that extra step in there. So that's what we're doing to mitigate double brokering. And that is how we got double brokered scammed. I didn't mention that the same carrier had double brokered all 8 of the loads that we had given them over the course of those few months. We were just fortunate that those loads got delivered without any issues. Turns out he was giving them all to this same guy, and sometimes it went well, and that one time that it didn't, that opened up the door for us to find out that everything was not what it seemed. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this quick little story. That's just a little bit of insight into my problem-solving brain, and if you're interested in getting some more help from me, some of the problems that you have in your brokerage, I encourage you to visit some of the links below. I have a program where I help people directly grow their brokerage. You can check that out below. And I also have a free Facebook group where you can join and get my help with answers to questions that come up on a daily basis. All right, so all of that's right down below in the description. And until the next video, I'll see you soon.